Chris Sims has Brock Purdy ranked 17th on his 2024 top 40 quarterback list, according to Coach Yak. He had no business winning the divisional playoff game this year, said Chris Sims. None. He should have thrown 4 interceptions at least. I mean, he hit Green Bay in the chest like 5 different times. He missed people on open everywhere. He wasn't that much better in the Lions game. And of course, in the Super Bowl, what I would say to a lot of people, if you had a top 10 quarterback, you won the Super Bowl. The 49ers are the Super Bowl champs. There were a few plays and throws in that game that I go, no, the top 10, the upper tier quarterbacks that sometimes I hear Niners fans try to say Brock Purdy would be in, I would go, no, you would have the Super Bowl then if that was the case. What do you think of Chris Sims' argument?
I think he needs to learn a subjunctive if that were the case.
That's a good point.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let me, I think there's a lot of layers here. I want to first say, I respect Chris Sims. I respect that he was a former quarterback, that he probably knows his business, and he had the guts to come up with what in the Bay Area is a controversial point of view and to defend it. So I admire all those things. I happen to disagree with him, but I don't think he's a jerk for saying what he said. Fair enough, right? I mean, I've done that enough and been wrong enough. I like people who have opinions. To say that Brock Purdy is the 17th best quarterback in the league, I think is wrong-headed. And I would like to know what his criteria are, because by every measurable, Iggy, last season, he was probably a top 5 quarterback. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback, but by every measurable, I think he was pretty much a top 5 quarterback, right, Iggy?
I mean, by most measurables, he was number 1.
Yeah. So how do you go from measurables being number 1 to number 17? So I'd like to know what Chris Sims is basing it on. And he doesn't really say. He says if they had a better quarterback, they would have won the Super Bowl. I want to come back to that because I really disagree with that.
Yeah.
So Iggy, do you know what his criteria are?
Well, he also said that Brock Purdy has a slow and inefficient throwing motion. So maybe it's stylistic, maybe it's in terms of raw talent. I could understand. I feel like it's hard to rank someone like Brock because his resume is great. It's one of the best resumes of a young quarterback ever, but it's still thin. It's still a season and a half. And it's really hard to rank someone until you've seen him do it for 2, 3, 4 years. 4 years.
Let's talk about his throwing motion.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a rather efficient throwing motion. You know who had a slow and looping throwing motion? Kaepernick.
Yeah.
This kid, in terms of release, not strength, is a cannon compared to Kaepernick. I don't say he has the arm strength, but so I disagree with Chris Sims on that.
I think I understand what he's saying. I mean, he knows more about throwing a football than either of us. I think what he was like, compare it to Jimmy Garoppolo, for example. Jimmy Garoppolo would have a quicker, more efficient release than Brock Purdy. He's more up and out, where Brock Purdy kind of has like a to here motion, which is fine. It doesn't get him in trouble at all.
Right. Okay, so there are 2 more points. Would they have won the Super Bowl with a better quarterback? And 2, why is Chris Sims saying this stuff?
Yeah, those are the points.
Okay, those are the key points.
So I can understand why Chris Sims would say that, right? The Niners are so good. They have this number 1 roster. What is the reason why they can't win the Super Bowl?
Right. Let's come back to that. Let's start with, would they have won the Super Bowl with a different quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
If they had Joe Montana or Steve Young, I think they would have had a better chance to win the Super Bowl. I do. But I don't think Brock Purdy lost them the Super Bowl. I don't. I thought among the key players, he had one of the better games of the 49ers. He had a better game than Deebo Samuel. He had a better game than Christian McCaffrey. Iggy.
He absolutely did.
He did. He had a better game than Brandon Ayuk. And
like, he wasn't as good as Patrick Mahomes, but Mahomes' quarterback rating was 99. Purdy's was 89. It's not like the difference between Patrick Mahomes and Jimmy Garoppolo.
No. Now, look, if the Niners had Mahomes, would they have won? I think they would have had a much better chance of winning if they had Mahomes. But again, they'd have to face Mahomes, so he'd be facing himself. But anyway, I don't think he's the reason they lost the Super Bowl. I don't. And I think that Chris Sims is putting the blame on Purdy when there's more blame to go. There's more obvious blame to go around among the players, especially among the offensive line, which really got decimated. They couldn't handle what Kansas City was doing. So I think Chris Sims is really wrong. And I'm confident in saying that. So the deep question is, why did he say it? Why did he?
The thing that I think most Niner fans do know or should know about Chris Sims is that he is maybe best friends with Kyle Shanahan. They went to college together. They played college football together. They have each other's initials tattooed on their ankles. They are best friends forever. And I don't know how often they communicate. I would imagine they communicate semi-regularly, especially in the offseason. And I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Sims' views are somewhat in lockstep with Kyle's.
I'm with you. Now, so we want to be very clear on this. This is a hypothesis. We don't know. We're just two guys sitting at microphones talking. So I have no inside information. I don't think my son does either. But we're saying what you're hearing. We're suggesting that what you're hearing from Sims may be a little bit what he's hearing from Kyle.
And it seems to be that Kyle consistently is lower on his quarterbacks than his fans realize. More critical of them. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a candid conversation with anyone, maybe Chris Sims one time, and Sims says something like, "Boy, what do you think of Brock? Really impressive." And Kyle privately says something like, "Yeah, look, he's really good. I got no problem with Brock. But if he were really elite, we would have won that game." I'm not going to throw him under the bus publicly because I really like him as a quarterback, but I mean, watch the tape. There were plays there. I'm just saying. I mean, Kyle isn't the kind of guy who's like, "Look, man, it's my fault. This quarterback is top 5. I held him back. Just give me 2 more years. I'll reach his level." That's not how Kyle Shanahan thinks. If he didn't win the Super Bowl, it's probably that guy's fault.
That's how I read Kyle Shanahan. He needs a reason that he lost the Super Bowl. He's a man who can't look in the mirror and say, "Boy, I really blew the whole game in the third quarter. I could have put the game away in the third quarter, but I scored 0 points, and these are the reasons." He can't do that, so he has to say, "If I had Joe Montana or Johnny Unitas, I might have won that game."
Mm-hmm.
And it's
true.
This is a surmise. It's a hypothesis. He's saying it to his friend. His friend comes out. He's the 17th best quarterback in the league, which is preposterous. I don't think anybody in the league, forget journalists, I don't think any player in the league would rank him 17. He's in the top 10. And Iggy and I figure he's close to the top 5, but maybe not quite there. But he's one hell of a quarterback. So if you say he's in the top 10, he doesn't even put him in the top 15, Iggy. He has him at 17. That's pretty low.
Also, I think we've tried to do this exercise ranking quarterbacks. To really rank them, you kind of have to try to visualize them on other teams to make an even playing field, which is kind of an academic discussion, one that you can't ever find the real answer to. What matters is that he's great for the Niners. Is he a great quarterback? I don't know. Is he perfect for the Niners? Seems like it. So what's the problem?
Right. It's like Joe Montana was perfect for the Niners, but not for the Raiders. No way. Yeah. And we've talked about that.
Yeah, so he's perfect for the Niners. He played well in the Super Bowl, not as well as Mahomes, but he played well. He didn't play poorly like Jimmy did in the Super Bowl. So it's like Chris Sims is close. With a team this good, if they can't win the Super Bowl, you got to look at someone as being overrated. He's looking at the quarterback. I'm looking at his friend, the head coach.
I'm looking at the initials on his ankle.
Yeah. KS. Man, That guy got outcoached by Andy Reid severely, especially in the second half. That was the difference in the game.
And in the overtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
When Kyle essentially threw in the towel.
I mean, because what he's saying about Purdy is like, look, Purdy's good, but he's on the best team in football. And if you can't win a Super Bowl with this roster, that says something about Purdy. Well, apply that same logic to your friend, Chris.
Yeah.
He's got the best roster in football and a MVP candidate quarterback, and he can't win the Super Bowl. What does that say about Kyle?
MVP candidate at running back and quarterback.
True. Yeah. McCaffrey was 3, Purdy was 4 in the voting. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably one of them would have won it if the other one wasn't on the team. They probably split the vote. Well, I don't know who to give it to in the Niners. So
Iggy,
you had the team.
In Chris Sims' ratings, again, I have not seen this. Can you, if you have it, can you give me the name of any quarterback who he ranked above Brock Purdy that you think is a fugazi?
Let me see. He may not have come out with the I think it's like one at a time. I think he's got to Purdy at 17, and then he's going to keep coming out with more after this. So we'll have to see.
Oh, so
who he ranks ahead of him.
In other words, he starts from the bottom to the top.
Yeah, which is fun.
But it would be interesting. There are certain names that he's left out. I mean,
yeah, like I'm sure he's going to rank Purdy below Dak Prescott, where I don't see how you could do that.
Is Prescott's name on the first 17?
I don't see it. So
okay,
yeah.
Okay, Iggy, you're starting a football team, NFL. You're the coach and the general manager. You have a choice at quarterback between Purdy or Prescott. Who do you take?
Purdy.
Without
Prescott
a second thought.
Yeah, I mean, Prescott has a better arm and he's bigger, but like Purdy has a poise about him that Dak doesn't have, and frankly, a lot of quarterbacks don't have. Isn't that true?
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Like an even-keeled nature that is very rare, and it's a huge asset.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I would take him over Dak Prescott any day of the week. It's not even a thought. Yeah.
Like, and we haven't seen Purdy poop the bed the way we've seen Dak do it in playoff games, or Jimmy did it in playoff games.
I would take him over the guy in Philadelphia too, Brock.
I think I would too. Although I want to see what Brock does this year, because Jalen Hurts was better than Brock in the Super Bowl, and then Jalen Hurts had a tough year after the Super Bowl. I want to see how Brock does after the Super Bowl. It's a tough. Already his team isn't here, so now it's much more on him. What do you got? It's going to be interesting to see. And your own coach may be a skeptic. It's going to be a very interesting season.
I love it. I love what you're saying.
Because let's say Kyle is a skeptic. Well, he needs to at least get over that or prove it to be a real issue before the end of this upcoming season, because the team has to make a decision about what to offer him. So if Kyle is thinking he's overrated, then prove it or fix it, because they have to make a big decision in like 9 months.
Iggy, if the going rate for quarterbacks is $50 million or something a year, do you get the feeling Brock Purdy would hold out if he weren't getting that kind of money? We don't
get the feeling that he would. No,
I don't think so either.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think he's more realistic, right?
Yeah, I also think the Niners are eager to pay him. As Jed York made it seem pretty clear, he's dying to give this guy his money. He wants to seem like an organization that has everything together.
Okay, good.
Does that make sense?
Love it. Yeah.
Okay.